Stasa23 here. In today's knife therapy, we have the Maxace Black Mirror. This knife came in at $148 when I purchased it. I noticed they are in stock at Blade HQ, but now they're selling them for $189. I was reading the description, and it says in the description that it's ASP60, which is a different steel. So maybe that's the case. But if you look at the specs, it still says M390. So you might want to contact them if you pick it up and you want to find out if that's why it costs more now. Let's get the specs out of the way real quick. You have a total length of 7.5 inches, a blade length of 3.3 inches, a grip area from here to here of 3.5 inches, a handle scale thickness of 0.47, so a little below average. You have a close width in the pocket of 1 inch. You have a blade stock thickness of 0.11, and the behind the edge thickness on my particular knife is around 14,000, sharpened at 20 degrees per side. But let's get into this. You have a very utilitarian blade shape on this one. I think overall, to me, it's an aesthetically pleasing design. You have this nice classic drop point blade right here with a really nice, like high polished type stone wash on there. I think it looks very, very nice. Full flat ground blade that comes down to a nice and thin edge. You have a nice sharpening choil right here that will give you a good bit of sharpening life before it starts to widen up back here. I love the way they did that. It has a blade hole a big blade hole for easy deployment. It's got a nice chamfer around there so you don't have any sharp edges, and it's still easy to actuate. You don't have any jimping, but you have a nice flat spot right there. I didn't find any need for it in my testing. You have a nice precise point for doing utility cuts, detailed cuts. Now it's time to see how it performs. The knife came wicked sharp and passed through this cardboard with little to no effort. I was actually able to whittle a hair out of the box with the edge that it came with. I did get hung up a couple of times on that sharpening choil. This is a little bit larger than normal, but I made some adjustments and it was fine. Now on to the pine 2x4 to test the ergos and see how well that edge is wanting to bite. It kept wanting to bite deep. I was trying to lighten up the pressure some just so I could maybe finesse some curls in there. I was having a little bit of trouble with my wrist that day, and my neuropathy in my hands was kind of giving me a problem. So I just started to just see what I could do as far as how far I could push it into the wood. The handle was relatively comfortable. It is a little thin in hand, but that arc in that handle is very nice to cut with, and definitely had some bite to that edge. As you can see, I'm just pushing as hard as I can in there. Nothing really to complain about. The drop point is definitely my favorite blade shape to do my testing. They handle pretty much everything that you throw at it, and it can do it fairly easily. The knife was doing great at this point. It's super sharp up near that tip, so cutting the materials on the flat cutting board was an absolute breeze. I was noticing how quickly the knife was passing through the materials, way more quickly than most of the knives I test. It was putting a smile on my face, and it's always reassuring when that edge is holding up so well. Pass through this tubing so quickly, and like I said, the edge felt good at this point. And I will say, whenever we get to that denim at the end, it's that 12-ounce denim, and man, it's ridiculous to cut. I need to put this excerpt of me cutting that where you can hear it, because it makes this loud, crunchy noise going through it that just sounds like it's wrecking the edge. But I thought it did really well and got through it without a problem. Yeah, I think it. Now on to the 1/2-inch twisted sisal rope. Usually after the first cut, I can tell if the edge has any bite left to it. And it definitely has a good bit of bite, which helps this test not to suck so bad. The blade shape is absolutely perfect for doing this type of stuff, especially whenever you got an excellent handle shape like this one does. It's excellent in the pinch grip, and I thought it was performing very, very well. It reminds me of how the Spyderco Spidey Chef blade cuts, and it kind of resembles it a little bit. Well, hope you enjoyed that cutting footage. Let's check out the edge. This is some phone book paper. It still felt really good. Let's see. Yep. I'm trying to do this behind the camera. Dog it. Yeah. Still got a nice clean edge. Definitely not as keen as it was whenever I first started the test, but I would say that's still more than acceptable, especially with phone book paper. So that means it has a little bit better than a working edge. Some stropping will get it back to razor sharp easily. Now let's check out that deployment and action. Like I said, you have the nice big blade hole that you can easily access from either side. I enjoy doing the reverse flick. I think it has a nice thwack sound. I love the sound it makes whenever that lock engages to the back of the blade tang. Very nice. It's riding on ceramic ball bearings and a ceramic detent. You can thumb flick it as well, and you can easily thumb roll it. I really, really like the smoothness of this knife. You don't feel those bearings like rolling on the steel or anything. Very, very nicely tuned action and detent. Now on to the ergos. I talked about it during the cut test. It was very, very comfortable. I did notice that little, it's 0.47 thick in that handle, which is a little thin. I noticed usually when it's under the 0.50, it'll start to fatigue my wrist a little bit. And being that it kind of tapers down, kind of thin back here, that I'm squeezing it a little bit harder. And, I can feel this a little bit. Now, it wasn't anything to where I stopped my cutting or anything, but I definitely noticed it. And maybe after a long period of extensive cutting, it might start to bother you. Now let's close it up and take a look at the scales. I went with the plain Jane version. There are other versions of it. I will pop them up on the screen right now. Those have the inlays in them, and they're showing that they're all about the same. I think they're all the same price. So just depends on what you want. Now, whenever I got the knife, this was the only one available, which I'm perfectly fine with. It's got a dark blasted titanium scales with a nice stonewash finish on it. I think it looks really nice. You got a little pop of color with an accent pivot collar right there. And I like how they didn't put any hardware, any Torx heads on the show side at all. They just put like a flat cap screw right there on both. The pivot is raised a little bit, but the back body screw is flush. You have a T8 on the pivot and the lock bar insert and the one body screw. Very nice. You have a 3D milled titanium pocket clip and a titanium backspacer. Both have like a bronze anno on them. You have a raised gear pattern right there. It may give you some extra traction, but it didn't bother me at least. Now, with this pocket clip being so close to the relief cut on the lock, I was kind of worried that it was going to get bunched up in my pants pockets, but I had absolutely no problem with it. And I think it's because how they cut these ribs in there, so it's just not, my pants aren't bunching into a wider hole. And it is sitting off of the lock bar. Yeah, I don't know if you can actually see that. Yeah, there you go. It's sitting off of it, so no problem there. Let's check it out in the pocket. I found that it went in and out of the pocket nicely, and it carried very nicely. It hugs this side very well, nothing sticking out to poke you, and you have a little bit sticking out, which I don't mind that, and you still have something to grab a hold to when you pull the knife out of your pocket. All right, let's take a look at the inside. You don't have any internal milling. However, I don't really think it's needed because I find the weight to the knife is really good. Let's check it out on the scale. First off, in grams, 108.6 grams or 3.83 ounces. Yeah, that's perfect. Now let's check out that lockup. Absolutely no play up or down, left or right. super solid, bank vault solid. I have no issues with the lock whatsoever. Access to the lock bar is very good because they have this cutout right here. I think it could have been shrank down a little bit because when it's in the open position, see how you can see that lock bar insert? I think they could have brought it up just a little bit more to where you didn't see that, just because you can kind of feel it whenever you're holding it. It didn't really bother me like I thought it would. You also have a nice chamfer right here with some texturing on it. So it's a joy to get to that lock bar, and it's very easy. And you can easily actuate it left-handed and deploy the knife left-handed as well. Now for some quick size comparisons, we have the Spyderco PM2 and the Power 3. It's in the middle of these two, but you actually have about the same cutting edge as the PM2, more than the Power 3. Next, we have the Hogue Ritter RSK and the Mini RSK. It's in the middle of those two. Lastly, we have the Spyderco Spidey Chef and the Best Tech Texel. It's identical in length to the Texel and about the same cutting edge. And it really reminded me of the Spidey Chef. Spidey Chef's a good bit bigger though. All right, now for my nitpicks and complaints. I think they could have just made a V cut in here and not brought this all the way right there, because I kept getting hung up in it until I made some adjustments. Just a nitpick, not hurting the functionality really of the knife. Second, talked about it a few times. Definitely, I love good lock bar access, but this is a little deep right here. They could have come up just a hair, you know, so you don't see that lock bar insert, and that would have probably been perfect. Other than that, I think at the $148 I paid, I think it is an absolute excellent value of a knife. I could highly recommend it there. Even at the $189, even if they didn't change it, I still think it's a good knife. I don't think you'd be disappointed. I absolutely love it. It's got excellent action, sounds good, cuts very well, nice and slicey blade. That held its edge very well. And yeah, definitely excited about this one. Like I said, they were still available at Blade HQ. Like I said, you might need to ask whether it has a different blade steel than the M390. That ASP60 sounds like some good stuff, but I haven't had any experience with it. So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.